If you've ever struggled with energy crashes, sugar cravings, and afternoon slumps, this one is for you, my friend. So, this week we're replaying one of our favorite book club sessions from last year about the book The Glucose Revolution by Jessie Inchauspé. This was a really powerful conversation about how stabilizing your blood sugar can completely transform your energy, mood, and metabolism. And these simple hacks truly change the way I eat and how I teach my clients to approach their healthy real food lifestyle. So I hope you enjoy. I just took some snippets from the book club to share with you today. This is episode number 220 of the Healthy Real Food podcast, the glucose hacks every woman over 40 needs to know. This is the Healthy Real Food podcast. I'm your coach, Erin Hart, a registered nurse and health coach who understands the struggle of feeling out of control around food and has walked the path of transformation, experiencing the miracle of sustainable weight loss with the sugar and flour-free lifestyle. If you are a woman who feels powerless against your cravings and is ready to live your life with more energy, mental clarity, and purpose, there is hope. Here, we believe that with God, a mindset of unstoppability, and consistent execution of a winning strategy, anything is possible for you. So, if you're ready to find freedom from food addiction, take control of your health, and pursue your dreams with renewed energy, support, and accountability, let's go. I'm just going to do a quick little review, and then I would love to just hear your insights about the book, like what your takeaways are. So, this book was written by Jessie Inchauspé. So, she's called the Glucose Goddess on Instagram. If you've ever gone to Instagram and looked at her page, it's really great. She has lots of little comparisons that she does, simple comparison charts of like different ways of eating food that helps you to stabilize your blood sugars. So she's really perfected like that art of making this message so simple. She is a biochemist who, after a near death experience when she was a teenager, she made it her mission to feel her best every day. And after experimenting on herself with a continuous glucose monitor, she really just started to notice these patterns of blood sugar spikes after she was having certain meals or on certain days. And so she did her research and it became really clear like that when she was feeling so poorly, it was because she was having big spikes or dips in her blood sugar. So she learned that just to feel her best, she had to start stabilizing those blood sugar levels. And so she now shares the results of her research. You can go on Instagram. It's really fun to see her little comparison charts. And she wrote this book, The Glucose Revolution, which is just full of a lot of really helpful and useful hacks. I found that these hacks are so helpful in helping us to living sugar and flour free as we do, the sugar and flour free lifestyle. Your blood sugar levels are so much more stable, or just in general, right? But these hacks, it helps it become even more stable so that we can have the benefit of curbing our hunger and not having all the cravings and just better regulating our hormones. She starts the book out with discussing what glucose is. The book starts with what's a really great description of photosynthesis, which is just the process by which plants produce glucose. And then from there, we learn that glucose enters the bloodstream via like starchy or sugary foods. And so it also goes into why today we eat more glucose than ever because of just the standard American diet, right? We have so many processed foods that spike our blood sugar. And so we have to be really careful because glucose spikes can be really harmful. Too much glucose leads to inflammation in the body, which produces oxidative stress. And that is caused by free radicals, and glycation is caused by glucose and fructose molecules that damage other molecules. She talks about how Like this oxidative stress, this glycation is just so harmful for our body. And when we have these big glucose spikes, excessive insulin is just pumped out into our body to clear the glucose away. But over time, that can eventually lead to insulin resistance. And that's been linked to a lot of chronic diseases, including type 2 diabetes, cancer, heart disease, hormonal issues like acne and PCOS and even Alzheimer's disease. So it's really incredibly important not to, just for diabetics to stabilize their blood sugars. We all know how important that is, but every one of us, it's important for us to keep our blood sugar levels steady to be able to be our healthiest and to feel our best. So, glucose spikes are just a quick increase and a drop in your glucose concentration in your blood. So, after you eat, and those glucose spikes can be really harmful. So, the idea is that the flatter the glucose curves, the fewer spikes and dips that you have, you're going to have improved health. Sweet food creates those glucose spikes, but also fructose spikes, which fructose is actually even more harmful. So, yeah, just so interesting. And so there's three things that happen in our body when we spike our blood sugar. The cells in our body, they work really well when the amount of energy is this that is provided is the same amount of energy that is needed, right? To have that balance. That's like how our body works the best. But when our body receives more glucose than it can use, it builds up and a glucose spike happens. So when too much glucose builds up, that's when we get those molecules called free radicals that are released and then they damage everything that they touch in your body. So these repeated spikes of blood sugar produce more free radicals than we can manage. And over time, this can lead to the development of cancer. And when there are more free radicals than what our body can handle, we are in a state of oxidative stress. So, yeah, it's just so important to avoid those glucose spikes. And I definitely don't explain it as well as she does in the book, but I I did learn a lot from reading this. So, our bodies like actually brown inside to signal like this deterioration of our organs, and that's caused by the combination of glucose with another molecule. So this is a normal process called glycation that we can't stop, but we can slow it down. So we can slow down the aging process. And having too many free radicals or oxidative stress and glycation that leads to inflammation in our body, which is the body's way of defending against invaders. So when our pancreas, which is that hormone that sends out insulin into the body, when we have those big amounts of glucose in our body, the pancreas sends that hormone insulin to help to store the glucose throughout the body and protect it. And the first place where the body stores it is in the liver. And that's where glucose is turned into glycogen, which is, and then the second place that it stores glucose is our muscles. And the problem is that these storage units like fill up really quickly. So glucose can turns into glycogen and fat. And then extra fructose also turns into fat. So we get this when we have too much glucose in our body, it just converts into body fat. And if we have excess body fat, that can lead to diet related diseases. So managing these glucose spikes can really affect how you feel day to day. And the symptoms can really vary from person to person. Like short-term effects can be include cravings and chronic fatigue, poor sleep, constant hunger, getting sick, like with a cold or night sweats, migraines, right? Those are can be some of those short-term effects of glucose spikes. Long-term effects can include acne or arthritis, Alzheimer's. We talked about that risk of cancer, depression. heart disease and type 2 diabetes. So the goal is really to flatten our glucose curves. And so what Jessie does is she gives these hacks. There's 10 hacks of ways that we can flatten our glucose curves without totally changing the way that we eat. And for those of us that already eat sugar and flour free, like a lot of these things, it's just minor little tweaks that we can do, but really will make a big difference in your cravings and your hunger. And I've found a big difference already in my lifestyle. Like I've been living this way for years, and I have felt like different, more in control. So the first hack is to just eat foods in the right order. So sometimes it's not about what eat this and not that, but it's just how we eat it. And the right order is to have your fiber first, your protein and fat second, and then your carbs and sugar last. So the carbs and sugar are what spike your blood sugar, and we need those because that's what gives our body energy. That's the preferred method of delivering energy to our brain is by having carbs. And so our body wants that energy, but by eating it last, by eating the fiber first, like from vegetables, and then your protein and your fat, and then the carbs at the end of your meal, you can eat the same meal, but avoid the glucose spike. So even for those of us that live sugar and flour free, we would just eat the vegetables first, we'd eat the protein, and then at the end of the meal, have your starchier or foods or the food or your fruit. So just a super small tweak. So hack number 2 is to add a green starter to all of your meals. So having a salad first or green vegetables. And I want to show you this little graphic here. Let me see if I can find it. Okay. So this is just from her Instagram page. But this is one of her cute little graphics that she does. So you can see like having a vegetable lasagna. And of course, like in that healthy real food lifestyle, we don't eat noodles or anything, but anything that's going to spike your blood sugar. If you eat a salad before, you can avoid the spike after. So this is just an example of just eating the vegetable lasagna by itself, right? You get this big spike, quick up and down of your blood sugar, and then yeah, you have a big spike. But if you eat the salad first and then the vegetable lasagna, it really like having that fiber first and having the salad first, it can help you to avoid the spike in your blood sugar. Isn't that so interesting? Hack number 3 is just stop counting calories. So that's not something that we usually do anyway in the healthy real food community. But for those of you that are watching this replay and you're wanting to you're trying to lose weight and you're counting calories, like really it's the different kinds of calories that we eat have different effects on the body because they're different molecules. So we just want to have the balanced macronutrients. So that's like why in the Healthy Real Food program we focus on having a balance of every food group. And so it's not so much just calories in and out. It really isn't. It's about just fueling your body with a variety of colorful food from every food group. Hack number 4, she talks about flattening your breakfast curve. A lot of people, like I know when I was a kid, I would always eat cereal for breakfast, right? That's a really common breakfast meal in the United States, and that can just cause a big glucose spike when you eat that first thing in the morning. Other breakfast meals to avoid are just like anything that's really starchy. So before the healthy real food lifestyle before I started this lifestyle, like I always had things like, and sorry if it's triggering to anyone, but like toast or jam or like pastries or biscuits, juice, right? Like Pop Tarts, eating sweet things the first thing in the morning and having that glucose spike first thing in the morning, it really sets you up for even more issues throughout the day. So breakfast is really the worst time to have your glucose spikes. It's the worst time for sure to eat any sugar or starches. And so having sugar like after a meal is a much better option. So by choosing a really good breakfast, you have more energy and you have a better mood, clearer skin, fewer cravings throughout the day. Smoothies is something that everyone thinks are so healthy, but like in terms of the glucose spike, it's just like drinking a soda pop, right? Like as when we blend up fruit, it really just it obliterates all of the fiber. And so the fruit is just or the juice is just immediately absorbed into our bloodstream and causes big glucose spikes. So, yeah, really smoothies are not like a healthy option for us. That can definitely set you up for a big spike, especially when we just obliterate all the fiber. So what she teaches is just that the more carbohydrates that we consume, in that way, the more blood sugar spikes that we have, the less energy we feel, the less energy we have. To flatten our glucose curves, instead, we want to really try to choose more of a savory option at breakfast. And like she recommends things like an omelet, right? The ideal breakfast is really to have more of a savory breakfast for those of us in the healthy real food community, like, to me, the breakfast is really one of the starchier meals that we have. We usually have our starch in that meal and a fruit with a protein. So just, like, adding maybe a vegetable starter to the beginning of it. Or what I have done, I've left my meal plan the same, where I have my starch, my protein, and my fruit for breakfast. But what I do is I have oh, they're really great. I wish I brought one to show you, but the Benefiber has these little packets that you can just drink and get this instant fiber, and it's unsweetened and it's tasteless. And so just eating that right before your starchier meals. So that's what I do in the morning. I left my breakfast the same just because it's automated for me, but that is something a way that we can help to decrease the spike with breakfast. Even with a sugar and flour-free meal, that's something that I found on that one where I don't usually eat vegetables for breakfast. That's something that has helped me. So hack number 5 is just having any type of sugar you like, they're all the same. So she's saying what she's saying here is that a lot of people say that agave is healthier or like honey is healthier than regular sugar. But what the research shows is that there is no difference between table sugar, honey, and all the other alternatives because they're all made of glucose and fructose. And so the reality is that regardless of what kind of sugar, it has the same impact on your body. So that's like why when people ask like, "Why don't you eat like maple syrup or honey?" Like those are natural forms of sugar. It still spikes your blood sugar the same way that table sugar does. So I thought that was really interesting and helpful in learning how to explain that to people. So yeah, just at that molecular level, there is no difference. And really, we don't need sugar to live. Like it's not one of the food groups. So if you're going, but if you are a person that eats that, like just it doesn't matter which kind of sugar you eat. So yeah, I found that helpful. And because sometimes I think people get confused. I'm like, why don't you eat stevia? Or so she does say that like stevia and there's like monk fruit, like those are some that don't affect your blood sugar. But what I've learned is that it like artificial sweeteners still affect your insulin level and really can fuel food addiction. So like just the sweetness of food is what like lights up that dopamine reward center of our brain that makes us and that really can really lead to the cravings and increased hunger. So in the healthy real food lifestyle, we try to abstain from any type of sweetener except fruit, right? Fruit is sweet and it has glucose and fructose in it, but also has so much fiber in it. So like eating a fruit, it doesn't spike your blood sugar the way other forms of sugar does because it also has so much fiber. Okay, hack number 6, she says, "Pick dessert over a sweet snack." So this is her talking to people who moderate sugar and flour, right? So it doesn't really apply to me so much or those of you that are abstaining from sugar and flour, but it is interesting, and I find this interesting that our bodies, like, keep working after we eat. And this is called like the postprandial state. So, to really improve our metabolic flexibility, we can do intermittent fasting. So, she recommends not snacking in between meals. She talks about how snacking in between meals, it's really better to just have your meals without snacking in between. And so it was helpful to hear the science behind that, that really intermittent fasting and not snacking in between meals is so much better for you than just constantly snacking throughout the day. And then she did say for those people who do moderate sugar and flour, if you do want something sweet, it's way better to have it for dessert after a full meal rather than as a snack on an empty stomach. On a snack as an empty stomach spikes your blood sugar. If you do eat anything sweet, it's definitely something you want to do at the end of a meal. And then hack number 7, she talks about the benefits of vinegar before you eat. So before having, and this is again for people who moderate sugar and flour or eat sweet foods. She talks about having like teaspoon of, oh, let's see, is it a tablespoon? A tablespoon of vinegar in a tall glass of water, like 20 minutes before you have something sweet. It can flatten that glucose curve. Apple cider vinegar is a really popular way to do that. But yeah, for me, I like to just have apple cider vinegar on my salad, and I just avoid the sweet treats because of a food addiction. Hack number 8 is after you eat, move. So, moving around after eating can revitalize us because the glucose that we just ate can be used by our muscles. And so walking around just for 10 minutes is enough. And you can have up to 70 minutes after your meal to do some kind of exercise. And you still are able to experience the benefit of lowering your glucose spike by just moving after you eat something. So, exercising before a meal is also helpful and useful. And exercising, of course, is great anytime that you do it. It improves our mental state and energizes us. But just remember that it, and in terms of like your glucose, stabilizing your glucose curves, exercising is going to be the most impactful after you eat. All right, hack number 9 is if you have a snack, go savory. So if you do have a snack or eat in between meals, you definitely want to avoid the sweet snacks and instead replace any sweet snacks with something that's savory, like carrots, cucumber, cheese, a slice of ham, or nut butter, right? So, like the savory snacks give us much more steady energy than things that are sweet. In the healthy real food lifestyle, we don't snack in between meals. It's just a way for us to not have all of the food chatter. And so that's not something that really applies so much to us, but I do think it is interesting. Hack number 10 is she just talks about putting clothes on your carbs. When you eat carbohydrates, just make sure you don't eat them plain by themselves. Like you don't want to just eat an apple by itself. You want to make sure you're adding fiber or protein or fat to it. So remember, anytime you're eating carbohydrates, as so in the healthy real food lifestyle, the things on the food list under the starch category or the fruit category, you want to make sure that you're combining that with fiber, protein, or a fat. Like you can combine fruit with nuts or yogurt. You can do a starch with eggs or like potatoes with eggs or cheese. And when it comes to fruit, berries are really the best option because they have the most amount of fiber in them. So when you think of like the skin on a fruit, the more skin a fruit has, like the more fiber it has. And so berries, they have way more skin to fruit ratio. And so they're really the best option. And that's why they are a superfood. But yeah, anyway, so interesting. What are some of the main things that surprised you, or what are your main takeaways from reviewing this book?
Thanks for listening today. If you enjoyed this podcast, you're going to love my coaching program. If you're struggling with your sugar and flour-free lifestyle and want to lose weight for the last time, I can help you. Just imagine living in your goal body and having peace with food. Your success is guaranteed. To learn more about how to get support, guidance, and accountability so you can find peace with food, achieve your goal body this year, and have more energy, visit www.healthyrealfood.com. While you're there, be sure to sign up for the upcoming free challenge to learn the Success Framework, and click the link to my schedule for a free one-to-one coaching call so we can get you started on your success path. You have the power to create the life that you want. This is the year of you. I'm cheering you on. Now go win the day. You got this.